What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Professional Dependa. It's me, Mike, your host. This week we're going to be talking about PCS house hunting. So sit tight, we'll be right back. Hey everybody, again, this is Mike. This is Professional Dependa. If you're watching on YouTube and Spotify, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe, you like, that way you don't miss any of the videos we got coming out. This week we are continuing our talk about the PCS process. As I mentioned the 2 episodes ago now, we were going to Ohio to go house hunting, and I am very happy to report that we found a house. We have an accepted offer on a house. Now we just have to get to closing. Just the waiting process to get to closing and doing the appraisal. We're using a VA loan, doing the appraisal, getting the house inspected, all of that stuff, making sure all of your ducks are in a row to get to closing day can be stressful. And we will talk about the finance stuff another day. Today, I'm just going to be talking about the kind of the fun part is actually doing the house hunting, going and looking at houses. This is the first time ever. Shouldn't say ever. This is the first time for a PCS. There we go. That my wife and I have actually got to go house hunting together. The house in Arkansas, she went down and found. The house we're in currently, I went and found it. If you look behind me, the walls now match, because remember last week the color over here was different. Well, it's all the same now. I finally went and got a third shade of gray because it's, anyway, I digress. This house I came and found, and this was the first time that we moved somewhere that the timing just worked out for both of us to go. And so we brought our kids with us too. We let them be a part of this process because why not, right? Not just my wife and I living in the house, our kids are living in the house too. So that's what we did. We went and we found a house. So, with all of that said, and we have, before we back up a little bit, we also have looked at 2 houses, we've lived in 2 houses that we never laid eyes on until we got there. Our townhouse in Maryland, we found, or she actually found on some school website, because we were in Maryland because she was getting her MPH, and there was a website with the school where people put rentals and stuff on, and she found that house there. No pictures. Matter of fact, the guy renting it was like, hey, the inside of this other house on Zillow looks a lot like this one. So looking back, that was probably pretty sketchy, but it worked out. We never saw it until I picked up the keys and moved in the first day. And then the house in Alaska, a friend, oh wow, I did not expect that, but I'm not going to record that, or go back over that, whatever. House in Alaska, a friend or a colleague of hers went and looked at it. Later became friends, but he went and checked out the house and sent us pictures and notes and stuff. And so we ended up still doing that one sight unseen. So this house in Ohio, honestly, I'll tell you a little bit about the house. It's super cute. It's in an older neighborhood. The house was built in 1940s. I love the charm and the character of older houses. And we wanted to downsize. The new house is, it's got a basement, so the total square footage is probably comparable to this one, but the footprint is smaller, and it doesn't feel as big, which is kind of a good thing because we have too much stuff. I'm just going to be completely honest. We have too much stuff. Our kids swear they don't have enough stuff, but then they don't use 90% of the stuff they have. So that's another story for another day. So the house hunting process. What do you need to do to get yourself ready to go house hunting? I even made notes this time. So the first thing you need to do, remember we talked earlier about getting a realtor and getting a lender and interviewing the realtors and the lenders and making sure that they're going to be a good fit for you and your family. Didn't really do that with the realtor. We used a realtor from a buddy of mine, or a buddy of ours that lives up there. We trust his judgment. Him and his wife, we trust their judgment because they're really good people. We know them really well, and we trust them. If they say this person's going to be a good person, we get along with them well, chances are we're going to like them as well, and that worked out perfectly. Now, the lenders, I did interview the lenders, and by interview, I mean I just talked with them on the phone. I called 3 different lenders. The first one that called me back, him and I hit it off almost immediately. Really liked his attitude, really liked his just no-nonsense approach to doing business. I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I don't like beating around the bush and making things more long and drawn out than they need to be. Tell me what I need to know. Let's get to the bottom of this deal, and we'll be done with it. I did when I used to sell cars. I sold cars the same way. Here's the best deal I can give you. Believe it or not, I was an honest car salesman. So I felt the same way from him. Like he was like, okay, here it is. This is what I know. This is what we can do. Yes, I know this. Yes, I know this. Yes, I'm available anytime, day or night, weekends, text, voicemail, whatever, email. He gave me all of his contact information. And the next person I interviewed, we just didn't. They seemed fine. They seemed like very nice people, but I didn't have that immediate connection that made me want to work with them. And then the other person never called me back. So there's that. Anyway, so you need to build, and the reason why I say all that, you need to build these relationships early. The housing market still is nuts. The house that we put a bid on, they had 4 bids the first day it was on the market. So we actually looked at this house on Wednesday. It went on the market on Thursday because it's actually our realtor's neighbor. So we looked at that house on Wednesday just because we had a bunch of other houses that went pending and got taken off the market. So we were kind of done early on Wednesday. Thursday, we went back and looked at this house a second time, and it was one of those things like we just knew the house was for us. Everything about the house just felt amazing. We loved the floor plan. Loved the it had original hardwood floors. It was just, the basement was, they call it partially finished. The basement was basically a blank slate for us to go in. We can put a bar. We can put a family kind of game room. We can put a theater room. I can have all my sewing stuff set up in the corner. The upstairs has an office that I can do, continue doing podcasting and some other video work there. And it was a great, the schools in this area are second to none. So we really wanted the house, and fortunately we got it. So anyway, build the relationships, talk to them. And the reason why I started saying build relationships is because with the way the housing market is, you can't put in an offer until you have a pre-approval letter. If you don't know what a pre-approval letter is, when you talk to your lender, you have to tell them, hey, this is how much money I want to spend. And be honest. Don't try to tell them that you want to spend $400,000 when you really want to, when you're really looking at houses that are $450, because they'll approve you up to $400 if you can. But if you tell them, I'm really looking to spend between $200,000 and $350,000. Why? Because the houses in that area, the housing market where we're moving is just it's some of the most expensive housing that I've seen anywhere. Houses that we could buy here in Georgia for between $200,000 and $250,000 are going for $400,000 plus up there all day, every day, and it blows my mind. People wonder why there's a housing crisis, and that's why, because houses for a family are $500,000 up there. Anyway, so you got to build those relationships early, because once you find a house, you have to get a pre-approval letter. What happens if you look at a house at 5 o'clock on a Friday and you want to put in an offer, but you don't want to wait till Monday because they're looking at offers all weekend? So make sure you have a relationship with your lender. That way you can text them, call them, email them, and know that they're going to get back to you. Be like, hey, we looked at a house. We would like to put in an offer for X amount. Try to make sure that it's not over what you already set. Because again, if you've already told them, I'm only wanting to go up to, and I'm just using ballpark numbers, I'm only wanting to go up to $250. And they say, okay, you're good for $250. Now you found a house that is $250. But you get an offer back from them saying, well, if you can go to $265, the house is yours. And now you're emotionally invested, and we'll get to that in a minute. And so you're like, yeah, we'll do $265. Well, what if you don't have a pre-approval for that? You can't do it. Make sure you ask questions. Ask your lender, okay, I want to spend up to $300,000. Again, just using ballpark figures here, because the house, every house we looked at there was nuts. It was just nuts. But okay, let's say I want to spend $250. I want to spend up to $300. What is the absolute max that I can get a pre-approval for? Because maybe the pre-approval, maybe they're like, okay, if you want to spend up to $300, you pre-approved to $400. That gives you wiggle room on the back end to know, okay, well, if they counter offer for more than what I'd originally said, I can go up to a different amount, and that's fine. But make sure you ask a lot of questions. Make sure you talk to your lender. Make sure they know that you need them available, especially if you're actually house hunting. Let them know when you're house hunting. Tell them, okay, I'm going to be in your area looking at houses on these 2 or 3 days. Are you going to be available if we need a pre-approval letter on Thursday night? Let them know. If you build that relationship early, they're going to be ready for it. And if you're being upfront and honest with them all the time and communicating clearly, they'll help you out. Our guy, I told him when we were going to be there, what we were doing, what I wanted. We had a pre-approval already up to a certain amount. And then after we looked at houses, we put in an offer that was up to that amount, or as it was up to a different amount, was actually a lot less than what we were pre-approved for. And then had to put in a counter offer for a little bit more. So because we already knew what we were pre-approved up for, it was really no problem. We could just bump it up just that little bit to be covered, but we still had to call them back and get another pre-approval because it was at a higher amount. So ask all the questions. Make sure that you are building that relationship. You're getting in. You don't really have to get to know each other. You ain't got to buy them dinner. You don't have to take them out. You don't have to buy them a Christmas present. You're doing business, but make sure you're building a good business relationship. Communication, as I've said with everything, communication is key. One of the things that I would recommend when you're looking at houses, when you actually have, after you've spent hours and hours digging through Zillow, Realtor.com, after you've looked at all the houses that your real estate agent has sent you, and if you're working with a good real estate agent, they've probably been sending you at least 2 or 3 houses a day as they come up on the market new, or as things come back on the market. We had that happen a lot in Ohio, where the people would put in an offer so the house would go pending, would come off the market, and then 2 days later it's back on the market because the person didn't have their stuff together and their finances fell through. So one thing, or another thing I would recommend, as because by now your eyes are probably bleeding from staring at the computer screen forever and death scrolling on your phone looking at houses, and you've been on all the spouses pages looking for houses and stuff. Make a list. Go through them, make a list. And before you send this list to your realtor, say, these are the ones that I want to look at. Be flexible. Understand that houses are going to come off the market quickly, especially right now. If you're PCSing in this PCS season, may the odds be ever in your favor, because the housing market right now is absolutely insane. Still, I guess I should say, still insane. So be flexible. Understand that houses are going to come off the market and on the market very quickly. So if you send your real estate agent a list of top 10 houses, understand they may not be able to show you all those 10 houses. We had one house that we couldn't even get in because we asked for a showing. They said they couldn't do it, so we asked for a showing the next day, and they said they couldn't do it. So I think they must have already had an offer on it. They just didn't want to tell anybody or something, or they were or they knew somebody that wanted to buy it. I don't know what the deal was. We couldn't look at it either day we wanted to, so that's fine. It just means it wasn't supposed to be for us. One thing that we did that helped us out a lot was the houses that we really, really liked, we gave nicknames to. Because the way my brain works, just knowing the address of these houses, it's not important enough to me, because if I'm not going to live there, I don't really care what the address is. But we gave them all nicknames. So we had like the History House. Why? Because it was in the historic district. We had the Red Brick House. Why? Because the front of it was red brick and nothing else was brick. Silly stuff. We had Blue Door House. We had the Solar House. That was one that I really wanted to look at, but it came on that was another one that came on the market. We liked it. It went off the market, came back on the market. We wanted to go look at it, and seriously, the very next day it was back off the market. But we called it the Solar House because it was yellow and had a bunch of solar panels on the roof. So you just come up with little nicknames, something that will help you remember. Okay, well, if they say, okay, we're going to go look at 874 Bluebird Lane, and like, what house is that? And they're like, oh, and your spouse looks at you and goes, oh, that's Red Brick House. Got it. That's the way my brain works, so maybe it'll help you. I like to make little nicknames, little clues that can help me remember what the houses are. When you get to the house, start looking at the house before you actually get there. What I mean by that is as you pull into the neighborhood, start looking, okay, you know, is this off a major highway? What is the entrance in and out of the neighborhood like? Is there a bunch of trees and stuff blocking the way? Is this going to be a pain in the neck getting in and out of in the mornings or in the afternoons? What's around it? Is there shopping close by? Is there restaurants close by? What are you looking for you and your family? Do you like going out to eat a lot? So is restaurants close by? Do you not have kids and maybe you still like to go and hang out at, you know, a sports bar, an Irish pub? You know, is there a nightlife close by? If you have younger kids, is there a park nearby? If you have pets, are there trails? Is there, you know, is the yard going to be big enough? How close to the neighbors? Look at all this stuff as you're arriving to your destination. Don't just have blinders on staring at your, you know, GPS the whole time or whatever. You know, pay attention to what your environment around you looks like, because this is all going to matter. What happens if you get there and you're like, man, I didn't even realize the neighborhood didn't have sidewalks? Is that something that's important to you? It was kind of important to us, and one of the things I really kind of wanted was sidewalks in our neighborhood. And the neighborhood we ended up in, our street doesn't have sidewalks, but the next street up does. It doesn't make any sense. So my kids can walk up the street a little bit and then be on a sidewalk. It's weird, but I didn't build the neighborhood. So anyway, so start looking at houses before you even actually get to the house. Start looking at the neighborhood before you even get to the house. Make sure that what are the neighbors like? You know, do your neighbors take care of their yard? Do your neighbors have a bunch of junk in their yard, in their driveway? Do they are there a lot of kids? If you have kids, are there a lot of kids running around? That might be a good sign for you. What if you don't have kids and you don't really want kids? If there's a bunch of kids running around the neighborhood, do you want to live there? You know, do you want to live more where it seems like there's either people with older kids that you're not going to have to interact with if you don't like kids, or, you know, are there just a bunch of adults, meaning adults without kids? We looked at a couple places that were townhouses. One neighborhood we went in, the first thing in my mouth was, this feels like a retirement community. You know, and if our kids were out of the house and we were, you know, past that 20-year mark and we were still just enjoying the Air Force life and our kids were gone, it's off to school or work or whatever, and it was just me and the wife, then yeah, why not? But there really wasn't, everything kind of felt like apartment-like, and it just was really weird. But there were no kids. And we, you know, having kids the age that our girls are, we wanted to be in a neighborhood with kids. So that was important to us. But you won't know that stuff if you're not looking around. And then, so what else are we looking at? So, as you get to the house, first thing you do when you get to the house, take a picture of the outside. Then as you get in the house, either take video or take pictures of every room. A couple of the houses that we went in, I did video, that way I could see kind of what the flow was like as I was walking through it. One house was really weird. It basically made a big circle, but then there was like offshoots doing things, and it was just strange. But it was fine. But I definitely recommend take a picture of the outside. That way, as you go back and you're looking through photos, you get to the front of the house, you're like, okay, so this is, you know, red brick house. And then as you're scrolling through, you don't have to wonder, okay, how is this still the same house? Because then when you get to the next house, you've got a picture of the front of the house. You know, okay, from this house, from this picture to this picture is the same house. That's just a recommendation I have after looking at houses in multiple states. It's really helped us a lot. It helped us keep our thoughts clear. And it's helped make the decision process easier, because as you get to the house, you're like, okay, I know we didn't like this one, so you can just scroll through until you get to the next set of houses, or the next set of house with whatever. One thing that we've done before is we usually just take notes. Our real estate agent this time gave us almost like a ranking system. It was, you know, you put the address, you put all the stuff at the top, square footage, all that fun stuff, and then you would rank each room. It had like little, you know, I liked the colors on the walls, I liked the number of bedrooms, I liked all it. It was a really neat ranking system. I wish I had one handy. I'd show y'all on YouTube and Spotify video the sheet, but that's what we did. We took notes on the house, and then when we got out of the house, Kelly asked me, she says, okay, what's your rating? We rated each house 1 through 10, or rated them on a scale of 10, rather. There's a couple houses we walked out of. I was like, this house is a 4. And there was, matter of fact, the house that we got, the first time I rated it at an 8, because I really liked it, but I didn't really like the unfinished basement. Then we looked at it again, I rated it 8.5. So it grew on me a little bit. But give them a ranking system. And then here's the other thing. Don't be afraid to give your real estate agent feedback. Matter of fact, we gave our agent feedback on one house that we walked in and we loved how much space it had, but it just felt dingy and dirty. And I kept telling Kelly, I was like, we're going to spend a lot of time, painting and cleaning carpets because it's just, everything just felt dirty. And the homeowner took the house off the market for a couple of days so they could clean. So don't be afraid to give feedback, because that feedback goes back to the buyer, and you're helping the buyer because for whatever reason they missed something. Honestly, this house, I don't even think they tried to clean it personally because it was just bad. It's almost like they moved out and they were just using it for storage until they had it sold. Like there was no effort put into this house whatsoever, but it made me not want to live there. And it was like right at the top of our budget too. So it would have had to have been turnkey for me to want to live there. So don't be afraid to say no, and don't be afraid to give feedback. If you look at a house and your real estate agent's like, this is a great house in a great neighborhood, and you're not feeling it, tell them no. Remember, the real estate agent works for you. They are there for you. You're not there for them. Again, you don't have to invite them to dinner. You don't have to send them Christmas cards. Even though I will say that I became friends with my last 2 real estate agents because they were just, Stacy, for our real estate agent here, she's amazing. We love her to death. She's actually going to help us sell this house. And then Diana in Arkansas, she did such a wonderful job, and I loved how just straight and to the point she was. Whenever we got ready to list our Arkansas house, the first thing she said was, you have to paint. Not will you paint. She said, you have to paint. Because the whole house was dark. It was dark. Like, we never could figure out if the color was brown or purple. So we called it purple, whatever, brown and purple combined. It was horrible. And then we painted it, and it made me want to stay there because it made the house feel twice as big because we painted it just a regular beige color. Anyway, don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to give feedback. Those are 2 of the biggest things I can tell you when you're looking at a house, especially to your realtor. Do not be afraid to say this house is not for us. Tell them why, and then give them other feedback, because that's going to do a couple of things. They're going to be able to tell the seller why you didn't want the house, and maybe it's something as simple as the house is too dark. Maybe the house needed new light bulbs. Maybe the house needed painting. So, but also it's going to help your realtor figure out exactly what you're looking for. There was one house we looked at that we absolutely loved it, but it had a almost a $500 a month HOA. $500 for an HOA? Holy smokes! So on top of it being, it was one of the pricier houses we looked at. But it had a pool, it had a few other services, but it was not worth $500 a month. I can put in a pool for less than $500 a month. So give feedback. Don't be afraid to say no. Whenever you do find a house, let's say you've gone through everything, you finally found your house, and I'll run you through the process like us. We found our house. We really enjoyed it. My kids absolutely fell in love with it. My oldest said that was her house. The second time we looked at it, she was like, oh, this is my house. And I told her, I said, well, not yet. Because what you don't want to do, which I told them, is don't get emotionally invested in this house until we close. Anything could happen. What happens if the seller comes back later and is like, you know what? No, I don't want to sell it to y'all. Could happen. Stranger things have happened, man. What happens if somebody comes in later, a week out of closing and offers her $50,000 more cash? Like, we'll do that deal plus another $50,000 cash. It's not mine until I sign. Yeah, we're under contract, but she can walk away from that. She's not out any money yet. So, yeah, she could. Crazier things have happened. And I really don't think I'd have a leg to stand on. So, But crazy things have happened. So do not get emotionally invested in the house. Here's another reason why that's important. Let's say you find a house for $250,000. Now you know that the housing market has been crazy, so you are willing to put in an offer that's a little over asking. Let's say you go in at $255,000. You're not doing anything nuts. $5,000 a month on a house note is like nothing. In the grander scheme of things, on a 30-year mortgage, $5,000 a month is nothing. So you put in at $255,000, but you've emotionally invested in the house, and they come back and say, well, we do $215,000. If you're emotionally invested in the house, or we do $265,000. Now you've already gone over $5,000. They're asking you for a $10,000 bump over $5,000, so $15,000 over asking. If you're emotionally invested, you might make that. You might say, yes, I'll take that, especially if you think that that's going to close out the deal. But if you stay reserved, you stay emotionally detached from that process, and you strictly just try to think through what you truly need to have happen, you might look at that and go, you know what? No, I'm not doing that. Like the 255 was my best offer, or you send them another counter. You say, well, I'll do 260. I'll go 10 grand over. We're not going 15 over. Because $10,000 is a little bit. There is a difference over a 30-year mortgage. That's noticeable. It's not insane, but it is noticeable. But if it's a house that you truly like, of course, it also depends on your interest rate and your taxes. Taxes are what's going to get you. But anyway, I digress. So don't get caught up in a bidding war, especially if there's more people. Because like I said, for the house that we put in, there were 4 offers, ours and 3 others. I do know that our offer was not the strongest offer that our buyer had. I keep saying, and I've told everybody this, it's because we had cute kids. Because we looked at the house the day before it went on the market, and the person selling the house thought our kids were cute. It was an older person that was getting ready to move to be closer to family, and I think that maybe our kids reminded them of their grandkids, if they have grandkids. I don't know. I'm making a lot of assumptions here because I'm just really happy that we got the house that we did. But again, I'm happy that we got the house that we did, but I'm not getting I'm staying a little bit withdrawn until we sign, but we're signing pretty quick, so I think it's gonna be good. Anyway, got a little off track. My apologies. My brain's a little scattered. So back to my notes. So do not get emotionally attached until you sign. That way, if something does happen in the house and you lose the house, you're just not devastated and crushed. I would even recommend still looking at houses. Keep a backup list. It doesn't have to be much. Just once a week or so, just go, okay, if we lose, something happens, we lose this house, this is a good backup list. Then a week goes by, you go back and you see what's on the market. Okay, if this house falls through, this one. Make sure you stay in touch with your real estate agent. Make sure you stay in touch with the realtor. That way, if anything happens, or if your house that you're buying is contingent on the selling of the house that you're in now, stay in touch with that real estate agent. Let them know, okay, hey, we're listing the house this day. We're going to close this day. This is what day we're getting our household goods picked up. Make sure they know all this. You're not doing anybody any favors by trying to keep secrets and keep stuff from them. Just give them the information. They're not trying to backdoor negotiate stuff without you. They're trying to help you out. So let them know. And then whenever you get to sign, make sure all your ducks in a row. And I think I speak for every single lender, realtor out there. Don't buy anything big and dumb between putting in an offer and closing. Don't go out and buy a new truck after you've got your accepted offer. Don't go out and buy a truck 3 days before you close, because that's going to screw your credit up whenever they do the last pull on everything before you close. You just ruined everything by doing that. Don't go out and all of a sudden dig up the mayonnaise jar in your backyard and put $60,000 of cash in your bank account the week before you close, because you've already had to give them bank statements. And now, well, where'd all this extra money come from? Oh, I had it buried in the mayonnaise jar out back. I'm a redneck. I can say stuff like that. Yeah. So just keep your ducks in a row. Don't do anything weird, strange, or different. anything you've been doing leading up to the day you put in that offer, just be careful with money. Don't go out and spend a bunch of money on your credit cards. Don't go out and be like, oh, we need all new appliances for when we move in. So don't, I'm going to go out and finance all these new appliances from Lowe's and all this stuff. Don't do all that. Just don't. Wait until after you close, then you can go buy whatever you want to buy. But just wait. Give yourself time. And that's really it, man. I know it's house hunting. To me, house hunting is the fun part. It can be exhausting. I should have said this earlier. I would not recommend looking at more than 3 to 4 houses a day. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 6 to 8 houses. And I promise you, if you look at 4 houses, anything more than 4 houses in a day, you're not going to remember what they look like unless you took copious notes, took photos. You're not going to remember any of them. So 3 to 4 houses a day. Communicate with your spouse what you liked about the house, what you didn't like about the house. Communicate with your real estate agent the same thing. Communicate with your lender about money stuff. And just try to enjoy the process. Try to enjoy looking at the different houses. If some of the houses you're looking at are pretty similar, maybe you liked the kitchen in this house, but you didn't like the bathroom in this one. So which one did you like a little bit more, and can you steal some design ideas from the other one for this one? Think about stuff like that. Or if you're looking at houses that are historic, like the house that we ended up buying was built in the 1940s. Maybe you can go and you can find other houses in that neighborhood on Zillow and look at the inside pictures. See if there's stuff in there that you like. See if you can find one that's a similar floor plan, and maybe the way they have stuff staged and laid out is just a little bit different than you would have done it, and you like it more. Those are all things to think about. But again, enjoy the process. It can be super stressful, super frustrating, but as long as you give yourself a little bit of grace, take notes, ask questions, communicate, take pictures, you can be all right. So thank you for listening to the Professional Dependa podcast as we continue our PCS series. Next week, we are going to be talking about, what are we going to talk about next week? Let's talk about listing your house. What do you need to do to list your house? So we got house hunting down. Next week we're going to talk about listing the house and anything else I can think of between now and then. But anyway, y'all have a fantastic day. Thank you for listening. See y'all next week. Cheers.